my thinking is, because we're seeing a couple names pop up, Chris Smith from the Bengals as a free agent, Benson Mayowa, as some Raider fans may remember, also a free agent. Those guys are more of your traditional 43 defensive ends. Somewhere in the vicinity of 6'2", 6'3", about 265 pounds. Like, that's a traditional 43 defensive end. That might max out at, say, like 6'6", 280. That's kind of the high end. That's what you'll have at Cincinnati. When you have at Minnesota, you actually have Danielle Hunter, and he's the one who actually translates similar to Bruce Irvin. He's about 6'1", 255 or so. But it really depends, can they do what you ask them to do? In this case, I think ideally, what you want Bruce to do is be a 43 under Sam. That's what he's best at. I mean, so if you're going to utilize that scheme, I think he's going to be fantastic at it. Do you want to bring him down over a tight end every play? I don't know. They may consider just running their traditional 43 look like they would do in Cincinnati, where you really had a Mike with two outside linebackers that you don't really differentiate from, and just have him in the mix there. That's very plausible. And if you bring back a Bowman to go with it, and you bring in a guy, and then you've got Corey James and Morrow, and I don't know what you do. I think that would maybe take you out of the running of doing like a Roquan Smith in the first round. I think that would turn you more to Tremaine Edmonds, but you could do that as well and just keep him as a space linebacker and then have him in coverage on the strong side if you want, or doing anything. He might be 31 years old, but he's still very athletic.
Yeah, so he hasn't played that strong side.
I don't have an idea what I think what Gruden said is very correct. Proper assessment. I am going to be very interested to see what they do, because it's like I said, if they come out and they play 43 under, it's going to be hilarious. I'm going to just roll on the floor laughing.
Tell us why. Why are you so? Why does it make you laugh, Rory? For the ones who don't understand what you're talking about. Because
pretty much that's what they tried to do for the last 3 years in Oakland,
and it didn't work. It was horrible.
Nah. So that's basically what they tried to do in Oakland for the last 3 years and just could not make it work. And now all of a sudden, if they come in and they do it again and they make it work. Now, here's the biggest thing. I always thought if you're going to do that 43 under, right, you're going to want penetrators all the way across the line. And I think that's eventually what Seattle did. But if you remember the early days in Seattle, you had guys like Red Bryant, who was an oversized, strong side defensive end. And they did a lot of two-gapping. They did a lot of different things. They had Mebane, who was like a 330-pound nose tackle, like an oversized nose tackle that two-gapped. So they blended a lot of stuff early on. And then eventually you got your Bennett's, Cliff Avrils, and all those guys, and they just went to straight up. Like, everyone one-gapped every play, and they just were at you every single down, down in and down out. So I think the Raiders tried to do the more old-school approach with Seattle, where they mixed it up and they did a lot of different things, and it blew up in their face. So if they come out and they get really simple, and they just said, everybody's one-gapping, we'll occasionally do a twist or a stunt, and we're going to do 43 under, and Irvin, you're going to take up over the tight end, just beat the crap out of the tight end all day long? Yeah, it could work.
Yeah, that's the only way I think that he's worth that $8 million price tag. You don't want him to play off-ball, strong side linebacker at a 4-3 over, right, and pay him $8 million. He hasn't played that position, really. I don't know if you want to pay him that much, and he's a little too small for a 4-3 defensive end. So it kind of sounds like they're headed that way, right?
I would think so. And here's the other thing. Because the Bengals love in their nickel package to the double A-gap blitz, the one thing about Bruce Irvin is he is an incredible blitzer. He's a very good blitzer. He's not a great pure edge rusher. He's a great blitzer.
Yeah.
Like, he understands how to blitz, and he understands when he gets a one-on-one and he can be in space and he doesn't have the guys can't get their hands on him, he'll just blow past you because he's that athletic, even at his age. So if you want to just take him and you put him inside next to Bowman and Nickel, and you just blitz both of them through the A-gap, I mean, he could rack up sacks doing that. It's very plausible.
Yeah.
And then you can move him in
that's the only way I can
sub-packages.
see him getting $8 million, to be honest with you.
And then you move him out to sub-packages, right? And then you stick him on the outside, and maybe you go like a NASCAR package, right? So you put him outside, maybe you bring in like a Chris Smith, he goes inside, you have a Mario Edwards Jr. and a Khalil Mack, and then you can rotate through, and maybe they draft Davenport at 10. Davenport can mix and match along the line. So now all of a sudden you start creating depth, you've got really sub-packages for pass rushing at the end of the games. And yeah, maybe he still does rack up 8, 9, 10 sacks on the season. But he's doing it in unconventional ways, not as just like a pure edge rusher all day long.
Hey, you see any three techniques in free agency that could be had? Can Muhammad Wilkinson play three technique and, put a little ease on that position?
He would be an oversized three technique. He would be like, I think on your best days, you're looking at like a McCoy / Ndamukong Suh type.
Yeah.
That would be your absolute best for an oversized three technique. And realize, although Ndamukong Suh has a lot of hype around him and he gets a lot of money, I think he only had like 7 sacks last year. If we're talking traditional three techs, you're pretty much SOL. There's really nothing out there.
There's nothing in the draft besides Maurice Hurst either, so...
I would argue that you have a bunch of tweeners. You do have a bunch of tweeners, like your Chad Thomas, Breland Speaks from Ole Miss, who are more of your Mario Edwards Jr. type. They might be an inch too tall, but they're right at that 285, 290 mark, and they did kind of a mixed match, 5 technique to 3 technique in college. It might take a little work, but those guys are there's a couple of them.
Well, Taven Bryan is somebody who's a little oversized, right?
Yeah, there was links, obviously, that we might actually trade for Geno Atkins. I don't know how true that is. Probably just speculation, but would he fit that sort of scheme that you're talking about?
Yes, Geno Atkins is right up there, your prototypes with your Warren Sapps, Aaron Donalds, like that group. Like that's what you want out of a 3-tech. Now, I'm still trying to figure this out with other people. We're going back and listening. Basically, that rumor came from Greg Papa on his radio show out here in California, had said something to the effect of that the Raiders were interested, and this is where the confusion is. I was told that he said Bengals interior pass rusher. Some people are saying that he said a Bengals free agent pass rusher. So that's where the confusion is. And if it's free agent pass rusher, it's probably Chris Smith, 26-year-old rotational guy for them. I think you had 3.5, 4 sacks last year. And then, on the other end, it would be Geno Atkins. But at the same time, they have zero incentive to get rid of Geno Atkins. And I just don't see it. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me if you're the Bengals. So I don't know. And I had a Bengals fan who I've known on Twitter for a long time, who I think is pretty knowledgeable about the way the Bengals work, and was very adamant that they're trying to extend Geno Atkins this offseason. So, I have a feeling that that's not going to happen. I think we got mixed up.
But that's the sort of type of player that we're looking for in that free technique.
You want someone. Your prototype 3 technique is usually 6'2" or shorter, short arms, big butt, and very stout from the waist down. Not necessarily a big bench press type. He's quick-footed, and he's going to blow through a gap. Like, the idea of what you want, because guards are usually shorter with shorter arms, and they're known. There's a saying, can a guy fight in a phone booth, right? So can he get in and use his hands with a lot of power and precision in a small space? So a 3 technique needs to be able to defeat that person by having very quick foot speed and immediately jump out of their pre-snap technique and get in there, right? So the ideal here is very quick feet. That's what you want. Those kind of guys can absolutely get overwhelmed if someone gets their hands on them. That's absolutely true. But at the same time, they have the shortest distance to the quarterback, and they can make a lot of impact plays and be very, very disruptive.
Sounds like you're talking about Maurice Hurst over here.
Well, exactly. I mean, Maurice Hurst is an ideal fit. I would love to see Maurice Hurst at 10 if his heart checks out. I'm a big Maurice Hurst fan.
I want to see him at the pro day, really see how he works out a little bit. Because his tape, some people like me have some reservations. But if he shows he's, quick twitched enough, strong enough, why not, man?
Well, and again, I think this is a matter of perception and understanding the position of what you want him to do, right? And I think this is the hang-up that people get, because the NFL, I think, has really gone to a lot of hybrid concepts, and they just mix and match a lot of things. And so when you find a guy who very much fits a very specific skill set, like a Maurice Hurst, people can get a little weird about it. I think a great example of this is Aaron Donald. I personally, in that draft, was a bigger fan of Aaron Donald than I was Khalil Mack. And I remember going back and forth with Eric, if anyone knows who he is on Twitter, talking about, and we both agree, we'd take Aaron Donald over Khalil Mack. But if you go back and you look on NFL.com's website and you look at where they give him as a draft grade, they graded him out as a 5th-round pick.
No
which
way.
Is wild. I'm dead serious. If you go back on NFL.com's grades for him, it was a 5th-round pick. And the reason is because people were getting in a mindset of, hybrid concepts, and they couldn't take this guy who's like barely 6 feet tall, short arms, quick-footed. Like, they're underestimating everything he could do because he was an old school. If people were thinking of the Tampa 2, they would be like, "Oh, I'm all over this guy." Monte Kiffin would kill for that guy, right? But a lot of other people, they're looking for kind of hybrid concepts. So what are they going to do? They're going to go Gaga over Vita Vea. They're going to go Gaga over Deron Payne. Deron Payne could be a great player, but he could be very similar to a Marcel Darius, right? Oversized, 3 technique, who really doesn't pan out as a pass rusher, even though he can kind of push the pocket, ends up being more of a 1. That is, I think a lot of people think that Deron Payne is your ideal 3 because he's got a great combination of size and size and strength. But realistically, he's not. He translates more towards like a traditional 1. I'm going to pull up that Aaron Donald.
I think they must have changed it. I think they probably updated it to round 1 now. But
I'm going to find his draft profile.
I have it up in front of me. Is it NFL.com you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they changed it because it's round 1 now. But I can see
that's where he was drafted by.
Yeah.
If you scroll, draft projection round 1. Yeah, I remember seeing the old one. It was like a 5th-round pick.
I'm sure they're saving their butts.
Yeah, but the point is like I said, he's he's that guy. Like if you think of the 43 defenses from, like the late 80s through the 90s and the early 2000s, perfect fit. Right. That's where he was going to live in, and that's going to be Maurice Hurst. Vita Vea, if you want to go take what the hybrid concepts Baltimore always did, that dude's going to be a monster because you could automatically see the Haloti Ngata comp. It's just a matter of how you're going to build the defense and how's he going to fit into it.
And it's what you want. And we have Jelly Ellis at the 1 technique, right, occupying two people. We need a pass rusher. That's what John Gruden's been talking about. Give Khalil Mack and Bruce Irvin some help on the edges. So I'm sure if he gets somebody round 1, he's gonna want somebody who can, fly through the gap and get to the backfield. Sticking with free agency, give me your 3 wish list. Like these 3 guys, if they give you said, I want 3 guys. These are the 3 guys I want. Take into account the cap space though.
Oh, so I'm accounting for cap space.
Yeah, like take into account that there's a cap space. You can't just get anybody.
Reasonably. Yeah.
Reasonably.
So if I were to say there's 3 moves that if I'm the Raiders absolutely have to happen, I think either Tremaine Johnson or Bryce Butler. I think it was a great move overall. One of those 2.
Bryce Butler or Malcolm Butler?
Or not Bryce Butler, Malcolm Butler. My bad.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said brain fart. That one's gonna smell. So Malcolm Butler or Tremaine Johnson. I think either one of those guys, great fits. I think they're going to be a significant piece for what the Raiders want to do. And I do think it gives them a lot of flexibility in round 1. The second guy I think has to get done has to be re-signing Bowman. I know we're talking a re-sign, not necessarily a free agent. That move has to get done. There should not be any discussion about it. So he might be one of those guys where he gets a feeling of what his free agency numbers are going to look like come the tampering period on Monday. And I think he'll probably get nabbed up before the tampering period ends when he gets an idea of what his numbers are going to look like. And then from there, I think the third move that has to get done has to be some form of a 43 defensive end. Somebody who can come in at minimum as rotational, potentially a starter. Somebody you think is going to give you an ability and depth at the 43 defensive end spot. Because realistically, this roster has 2 of them, and that is Khalil Mack and Shalik Calhoun. So,
Shalik Calhoun's kind of small to be a 43 defensive end, no? Like 255? I know he was drafted at 255. I don't know if he got any bigger or not.
I believe he added like 5 or 10 pounds. But even if he's in the 260 range,
that's fine.
that's fine.